How's it going, people? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to another tier list. I made one last week on hot hatchbacks that you guys seem to really enjoy, so I thought I would do another topic on this channel that I really like talking about, which is cheap luxury cars. So yes, in this video I'm going to go through a bunch of cheap luxury cars and give you my actual opinions on them, because normally I do videos based on facts and I just grab a whole bunch of facts off the internet and off of like places that I know and from the top of my head and throw them into a video about a bunch of different cars. Instead, we're talking about my opinion here, so I could be right, I could be wrong, it's up to you guys to decide. But don't forget, this is my opinion, as I said, so feel free to ignore me first of all and to debate me in the comments down below, but let's keep it nice and friendly, but let's keep it as respectful as possible. And I know you guys will, because last week's video had a really great reception. Even when you disagreed with me about different cars, you guys did it in a nice productive way, which I thought was very kind of you, because the internet can be wild, wild west at times. But anyway, yes, 30 cars to go through. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoy this kind of video, subscribe as well if you're new, and yeah, let me know in the comments down below if you think I was right or wrong with my choices. But without further ado, let's get into the video. So you guys asked me to include a picture of each car before I start the section on it, so I will do that throughout this video. And also I wanted to walk through my my sections here. So we've got Monarch at the top, Landed Gentry just below that, the Masses below that, Peasants sitting below that, and then Serf, which is like, for those of you who don't know, in medieval England, a serf was like the poorest of the peasants, basically. And just a reminder as well, I pretty much like every single car on the planet. That's the reason why I made this YouTube channel. I like pretty much every car, or I can find something nice to say about almost every car. So yeah, it's gonna be quite difficult for me to put them into Serf, but I will do my best. So let's kick it off then with the Rolls-Royce Silver Spirit. It cannot be a video about luxury cars, cheap or otherwise, without including at least one Rolls-Royce. So this is a nice classic luxury car. It's the oldest car on this list by quite some way. What I think is cool about getting an old Rolls-Royce Silver Spirit, in fact I have actually been in one, I haven't driven one, but I've been driven around in one quite a bit. And yeah, what's nice about it is everything is to the same kind of formula as today to some degree. So like, it had the best materials available at the time. It has like everything possible in terms of luxury and just being a wafting mobile. It has it from the get-go. So for example, the suspension on that, it is crazy, the suspension. Like thinking about it today, compare that to any car that I've driven today and it's just completely different in terms of how wallowy it is. Everything, it just takes up everything without you having to think about it. Yes, it lacks technology. Yes, it lacks any of like the nice functional features that we have today, but in terms of luxury and in terms of its period, it's right up there. Plus, the car that I was driven around in was an ambassador's car, so for that reason, I'm gonna put it into Monarch, because it's literally an ambassador's car, and that's about as close to Monarch as I've experienced myself. What do I want to talk about next? Let's skip some of them. So let's do the V8 Vantage, which I included in my sub £20,000 luxury car video, and that's telling you something, because nowadays you cannot get a V8 Vantage for anything less than kind of the 25k mark. So in a space of 1 year, we've gone 5 grand up in that car, which sounds relatively small for a Vantage, but you also think that's like a quarter of its original value, as in a quarter of its second-hand value that it's jumped up by. So that's pretty significant. That's 25% increase. So yeah, but I like the V8 Vantage. It's a very, very nice car, and I don't want to sound like a broken record immediately off the bat, but of all the cars on this list, if I was going to have one, I would probably have a V8 Vantage. And so for that reason, just from a personal perspective, I'd probably put that into Monarch as well. And by the way, I might change this around later, but I'm gonna put it into Monarch. And in fact, because it's probably the one that I'd have the most, is it? Let's leave it there for now. Although that said, it's not as luxurious as some of the other cars on this list. It's more luxury because of the name rather than because of what it has, if that makes any sense. It's more of a sports car, as I'm sure you're aware. By the way, if I sound a bit off in this video, I have a sore throat, so my bad. Next up, let's go to a Rogue One and talk about the Peugeot 607. Now, I included this in my sub £1,000 cheap luxury car video, so this is completely the other end of the spectrum from the V8 Vantage, of course. But what I think is cool about this car is that it offers some kind of luxury for under £1,000. Yes, it's not particularly high luxury, but relative to other cars you can get for £1,000, it's pretty reasonable. And people compliment it a lot on the way that it drives and how comfortable it feels and how well it wafts around and that kind of stuff. So I think it is probably a good car. It feels wrong to put it into anywhere particularly high though. Oh, this is going to be a really tough list. This is much more difficult for me than the hot hatchbacks list. I feel like I had a much more clear mindset with the hot hatchbacks, but these ones, it's a little bit more difficult. I kind of like all of these. I like really cheap, rubbishy luxury cars. I think they're pretty cool, which is why I'm waiting for one of those videos to get 15,000 likes on them. Please go and like those videos if you haven't already, because I promised I would get either a sub 2k or a sub 1k luxury car. Oh man, why don't I do the 607? Compared to some of the other cars on this list, I wouldn't have one myself, I don't think. So let's put it in peasant for now, and then I'll work on the position later. Let's choose one that is much more easy for me, the Cadillac CTS. Now, I really don't like the CTS. I said I like every car. The CTS, it just doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't look pretty. The interior is okay. The dashboard is all right. It is an executive car more than it is a luxury car, of course. And yeah, it's just not my thing, being perfectly honest. So I'm gonna move that to surf. Sorry about that. Let's now move on to I've got 3 S-classes to go through, so how about I go through those relatively quickly. Let's talk about the W220 first of all. So this is the oldest one that I have on this list, and I actually think it's a really cool car. All of the S-classes, they come with the best technology that Mercedes has available at that time. So despite it being quite an old car, like early 2000s, it had the best technology available for a Mercedes at the time, so that makes it pretty cool. I think as well the fact that you can get like some pretty insane engines on the S-Class, like you can get all the way up to like the S65, I think it might be a 65, I can't remember at this point. But yeah, like you can get some pretty nutty engines out of these, and that's obviously a lot more expensive. Where would I put it though? I think I would put the let's put the W220 into masses. I think I would probably put the W221 ahead of it because I think it looks prettier, basically, and it's also slightly newer and it's still available for a pretty reasonable price. Let me put that in masses as well though, because I think S-classes are kind of where the it's tough. It's actually really tough. I really should have thought this video through before I started, because I literally don't know where to put lots of these cars. But I didn't think the hot hatches video through first, so I don't know, it doesn't make any sense. Right, let's go. 221, we'll leave it there. And then the 222, the fact that it's available for sub 20k is pretty nuts considering the tech you get with it, the level of luxury you get with it. I'm gonna put it in landed gentry. I don't think that any of these 3 cars set my world alight. I think if you were to do this list based on which car is actively the best, like the best luxury car on this list, it probably would be that W222 Mercedes S-Class. It's probably like the best all-rounder on this list, so it would be number 1. But for me personally, it doesn't get me going in any kind of major way. But I'll put it in landed gentry because I do still rate it pretty highly. Moving on then, we're going to discuss 2 Audis. Let's talk about the 2 different Audis. So the A8 and then the S8, both from the same generation. So I don't know why I put both of them in, but that's fine. I've used the A8 in like a sub 5k video and the S8 in a sub 10k video. So similar offerings, but obviously ever so slightly different. I think the A8 is slightly better as a wafter. Like the A8 is like a wafting car. It's built to just be an executive saloon, whereas the S8 is that little bit more aggressive with that V10 engine in it, which many people know and love by this point, of course. It's like a 5.2 litre V10, if I remember correctly. And yeah, I mean, I think that the A8, personally for me, I don't think I would put it on a level with the Mercs. So for that reason, I'm going to put it in peasant. I'd probably be more likely, personally, to own the 607 because I just think it's that much cooler than the Audi, so I'm going to put that there. But then the S8 is definitely up here somewhere. Obviously, it's got a cult following to it. As a luxury car, it's more of a luxury car, I suppose, than the Aston. I'm going to put it there. I'm going to leave it there because even though I like it, it's actually not my favorite. Like, I get the hype behind them, but for me personally, the S8 is really nice, but it's not like my favorite in the bunch of luxury cars. Moving on then, we should have a chat about the Rover 75. The Rover 75, which shares its HVAC system with the Pagani Zonda S. Like, unbelievable stuff, particularly by Pagani just deciding to cut corners and take from the Rover in that sense. But yeah, take from the Rover parts bin for their Pagani Zonda. Considering they are like works of art, I find that really, really interesting. But the Rover 75, so it was like a ministerial car here in the UK. Like lots of MPs and whatever use the car. I think it's a little bit of an underrated or like not so not particularly assuming luxury car. It has a really nice interior. There's like lots of really nice interior specs for it. Like there's one that comes in like blue and white or whatever, blue and cream or something like that. And I think that looks really sick. So as a car, yeah, it's I think it's actually pretty cool. It's like surprisingly cool. Cooler than the 607 in my head. And probably in terms of ownership, I'd probably be more likely to own one than I would some of the S-classes, because I think it would be a more fun thing to own on YouTube. So I would probably put it into masses somewhere here. I think that's probably a fair thing. Like, I would probably have one, just for the sake of seeing what it was like, because I have such limited experience of them. The BMW 7 Series, the E65 7 Series, which is a bangle butt era of BMWs. It's reasonably well equipped. Like, it's got a nice interior, nice leather seats, all the good stuff that you'd expect. It's very executive again, rather than straight luxury. But you got to make do with what you can when you're looking at really cheap luxury cars. I think that was probably using a sub 5k video or something like that. Unfortunately, though, I think I included the 730D or something, or one of those ones, and they are renowned for having awful reliability. It's like they're from the era of BMW just having the worst reliability. So as a luxury car, I can't back it from that perspective. I think, one, I'd never have one. Two, the reliability is known to be pretty poor. So three, I'm going to have to put it into surf. I put it ahead of the Cadillac because I just don't like the Cadillac that much. But yeah, it's going to have to go into surf for me, so apologies. And by the way, in my last video, everyone was saying that I haven't got much love for BMWs. I love BMWs. Like, look through lots of my old videos and look at the thumbnails, and you'll see loads of BMWs on there because I just like BMWs. So right, moving on then. Next, let's talk about the Porsche Cayenne. The Cayenne, which saved Porsche to some degree. So Porsche were basically suffering. They were like an insane amount in debt. I forget how much money it was, but many billions or whatever in debt, and they turned that into a massive into massive profit in the sort of short period of time, all because they brought out the Cayenne, realizing that a lot of people who owned like a Porsche 911 or a Porsche Boxster or any of those kinds of cars also had an SUV. So they had a 911 and they also had an SUV to go alongside it. So what they did was they built their own Porsche SUV to try and capture some of that market. They did a great job. Loads of people bought the Cayenne, and the Cayenne kind of helped to save the Porsche brand and also like spring it into a whole different market. Without the Cayenne, we wouldn't have the Macan today. The Panamera arguably is kind of like has also grown and also I suppose did the same kind of thing as the Cayenne. But yeah, so I think the Cayenne, I really rate it quite highly. I think it's a pretty cool car. I think for the money as well, obviously running costs and all that kind of stuff aside, why would you not want a massive Porsche to drive around in? And the interior specs on these are like unbelievable. Some of them are so sick, and they often make great thumbnail pictures as well because of how good they are. So I'm going to put that one into landed gentry, and I'm going to put it above both of these just because I rate it that much. So yes, Cayenne goes there. Next up, let's talk about the Chrysler 300C. In my head when I was a kid, this was basically an exotic car. I loved them so much. I thought they were really cool. As I've grown older, unfortunately, I think they've gotten less good looking. For me, I think that I'm just not a massive fan of like American executive cars. I like American muscle, but I'm not really into like the executive American car stuff. And so for that reason, it has to go, well, it would be above the Cadillac. It would be above the 7 Series. I wouldn't have it over the A8 or the 607 though. So for that reason, I'm going to sadly have to put it into peasant. But when I was a kid, that was like, I really thought they were so like super cool. Now we need to talk about multiple Jaguar XJs, and I've got 3 of them to talk through here. So we've got the X308, the X385, and the X351. So 3 different Jags to talk about here. Let's talk about the first one being the X308, which I can't even remember which generation this is at this point. Like it was later on, but it sort of appeared in like the late 90s and early 2000s. It's my least favorite of the bunch of XJs visually, like aesthetically. And it was also in many cases not known to be particularly reliable. It wasn't like heavily unreliable, but it wasn't known to be that reliable. I think that the next generation upped how it looked visually quite a lot. And so for that reason, I'm going to put it into peasant. Yeah, I think there's a peasant car for me. It's probably somewhere around here, being serious about whether I would buy it over a 607, probably not. Then if we talk about the 358, so the next generation, or 350 and 358. This is a facelift. I really rate these. I don't know why. I've seen a few in person. I mean, I've seen a lot in person. I haven't actually experienced them that much, but I really like this car. I don't know why. When I see it out driving around, I think it just looks really good. I think they got the design just right for this car. And I would probably have one as well for the sake of owning a cheap luxury car. I would love to have one of these. So I think that would go in landed gentry for me at the bottom end, because it's not cooler than an S8, but I think it's probably worthy of landed gentry. And then when we talk about the final one, so a slightly more recent generation being the X351, that is another nice car. I think it's another Ian Callum design, which is also cool. But what do I feel about this car? It's not ultra inspiring. It doesn't gas me up like the other one. I think the other one's like quite an interesting and slightly different design. I think this is a nice car. Having been in one as well, it's nice to be in. I think it's probably worthy of masses and probably worthy of somewhere around here. Like, it's probably better than a Rover 75 in my head, even though, no, I'd rather have a Rover 75 than an XJ, because I would find it more interesting to own a Rover 75 than the XJ. But the XJ just isn't, maybe I'm in the wrong place in my life. I think maybe that's the thing. With the hatchbacks, hot hatches, like I'm in a position in life where I would definitely have a hot hatchback. Whereas I'm not sure I would have like a proper luxury car. I'd have a cheap luxury car for fun. I wouldn't have like an XJ or something, because it wouldn't do it for me. But moving on, the Range Rover Sport. People love Range Rovers, like adore Range Rovers. Now, they are not known to be reliable in the slightest, of course. They are known to be quite luxurious. I've been in quite a few of them, and I weirdly do like them, actually. Like, I like the interiors. The interiors are quite nice. They feel a little bit... I like them. I'll say that I like them from that perspective. But the reliability does really let them down. I am really struggling to choose here. The thing is, of all the SUVs, like all of the luxury SUVs and whatever, I wouldn't have a Range Rover. It's just never featured in my brain. I'd have like a GLA, I'd have a G-Class, I'd have a Panamera, I would have probably a Q7. A Q7 would be mad, actually, like something like that. But a Range Rover Sport's never really featured in my head as something that I would like to own. I kind of like them, but I wouldn't want to own one. Oh man, I would put that in Peasant too, you know? I'd put that... Yeah, I'd have it more than I'd have that. S-Classes are better in my head. Like, I respect S-Classes more. The XJ I respect more as well. The 607 is actually kind of going up in my books whilst I'm making this video. Might move the 607 up, actually, to here. And that's probably more of a fair representation. Yeah, so I'm sorry to the Range Rover lovers out there. I like them. They're just not really my thing. So, moving on, let's talk about 3 different Maseratis. So let's start with the Ghibli. Now, the Ghibli is all right. It's kind of like the everyman's Maserati. It's dropped so much in value, and it's people complain about it not being the most well put together car. Is probably the most PC way of saying it. But I do like them. So because of that reason, and it's my list, I'm going to put it into masses, probably around about here. I've got the Gran Turismo, which I've included in a couple of my luxury car videos, which I really like. As in, I really, really like the Gran Turismo, because like it sounds amazing, it goes amazing. It's a nice Grand Touring sports car for really cheap money, and also benefits from a Ferrari engine. So I mean, there's always that bit. Like, who doesn't want an Italian sports car with a Ferrari V8 engine in it? So for that reason, it has to go into landed gentry, and I would have one over that. I think the V8 Vantage and the Rolls-Royce Silver Spirit are cooler from a luxury perspective. I think that's like top end landed gentry. Sounds amazing, obviously. Yeah, let's leave it there for now. And then let's talk about the final one, the Quattroporte as well. Another really nice car. I'm going to put that one into landed gentry too. I'd have it more than that. I would let's put it there. I rate Maserati, man. I do like Maserati, because even though they get a little bit of flack for not being that well put together at times, and they do depreciate like insane amounts, I would never want to buy one new. I think maybe I'm just biased because I loved the Maserati MC12 when I was a kid, and so I'm just carrying on that same that love into some of their other cars, basically spilling over into their other cars. Alfa Romeo 159, barely a luxury car, but it was in my sub 2K video, so I allowed it. And it does have one of the nicest interiors on the list, like proper Italian, nice leather. And on the exterior, it looks lovely as well. Really, really lovely looking car, particularly in like some of the more aggressive specs. For me, that's a landed gentry car. and it's probably, I'd have it over the Cayenne for sure. Yeah, I'd have it there. I'm also a massive Alfa Romeo fan, so that's kind of an easy choice. Let's leave the 3 Bentleys for now. Let's talk about the Citroen C6, which I also included in my sub 2K video, I think it was. This is, again, like a properly cool car. I'm going to put this on the same level as, I'm not even going to faff with it. I'm going to put it on the same level as the Peugeot 607, probably slightly ahead of it because it's just that much cooler. These two French weird cars that are also luxury cars, I would like to own both of them, I think at some point, maybe. Sorry, not I would like to. I would own them for the sake of content, so they would go there for me. Just a few more left. Let's go through the Panamera. So similar story to the Cayenne. I do really like it. I think the first generation was the least nice generation though. I have done videos with the later generations, but I wanted to just include the first gen on this list because it is like the cheapest of the luxury Panameras. It was always supposed to be a 911 feeling car. It's supposed to have like 911 dynamics, but made slightly bigger and slightly more useful. I would never want to sleep on them. I think they, again, the interiors on these are buff. I'm kind of talking myself into liking it more as I talk about it. I think that it, oh, man, I put the Cayenne here because I rate it for what it did for Porsche, and I like the Panamera more. I'd have a Panamera over a Cayenne, so I'm gonna have to put it there, which feels a bit weird. Maybe I'm gonna have to move the Cayenne down a bit. Let's move the Cayenne down to top, or no, let's leave it there. Let's leave it there. That's fine. Yeah, I like the Panamera. I'm happy to put it in Landed Gentry. I just, as always, all of the cars are going towards the top end of this list rather than the bottom end. You can see that I just like cars. VW Phaeton, Monarch. I like the Phaeton a lot. And the reason why I like the Phaeton a lot is because it was a big middle finger by VW to its colleagues at BMW and Mercedes, because basically Mercedes and BMW wanted to get into the smaller car class that VW normally occupied in terms of making like the 1 Series BMW, the A-Class Mercedes. And so with that in mind, VW were like, well, fine, we'll just make a bunch of luxury cars then if we're going to just start moving around and doing whatever we want to do. So they made the Phaeton, which has a whole bunch of like bespoke features in it to make it as luxury as possible. It's built on the same platform as the Bentley Continental GT, and it's basically, and I mean it even comes with that W12 engine block as well, not twin turbocharged, but it comes with W12 if you want it. And I think in terms of a cheap luxury car, not the W12 obviously, but like going for one of the diesels instead, there isn't much better in terms of bang for buck in terms of luxury. Let's ignore maintenance, repairs, insurance, all the good stuff that I mentioned at the start of every video. We're just talking about luxury for luxury's sake. It has to go into Monarch, and it probably, for me, I'd have it over both of those. Even though Rolls-Royce defines luxury in the world, I really like the Phaeton. I don't know if it'd be that great for content, but I think it would be great to own anyway. So I would put that into Monarch. 2 Lexuses I want to talk about, the GS450H and the LS430. GS450H, let's start with that. Obviously a nice car. The exterior I'm not sold on. I don't look at it and think a super beautiful car. It is a bit of a sleeper from that perspective. It is very quick considering that that hybrid attached to it is helpful in that. But it has got some of the best features on this list in terms of luxury. Like it has like those lovely heated and ventilated seats if you want them. And as an overall car, like the engine was built in like a, I've forgotten what it's called, but basically it was built in like an airtight environment where every single engine was made to be perfect, like as perfect as you possibly imagine. And it was therefore very reliable in terms of the engine part. Obviously batteries can die over time and the hybrid system can go wrong. And I really rate it very highly. It's probably worthy of Landed Gentry for me. I wouldn't have it over the Porsches personally. I wouldn't have it over the S-Class. Yeah, I wouldn't, so I'm going to put it there. But it always comes like number 1 in my videos because I do rate it so highly. So it's going to go into Landed Gentry. I'm going to leave the 3 Bentleys till last just because I basically reached that point. So let's talk about the LS430. The LS430, I love it because of that V8 engine block, first of all. Second of all, I love it because of the seats, that they are modelled off of the seats from a British Airways first class section. And I love that the whole interior was modelled on a Four Seasons hotel. And yeah, it is such a sleeper. I think that I prefer, actually, like, because I like older cars, there's no secret in that. The LS430, I'm going to put it into Monarch because I haven't got enough cars in Monarch. I wouldn't have it over any of these, but I do really like it. And as a luxury car as well, it's probably cooler. Like it's probably a cooler car than the Maserati Gran Turismo and cars like that. So I'm gonna put it there. Finally, 3 Bentleys, 2 of them basically the same. Starting with the Arnage. The Arnage, I've probably slept on a bit much. Like it's not a car that I think about too often when I'm doing my luxury car videos, but I have included it in luxury car videos in the past. It's a nice car. It's not a car that I am super fussed about though. It would go into masses for me. Probably, yeah, probably there. That's probably where it's worth going for me. I do really, I like the shape of it. I like how it looks, but it's a little bit old Bentley for me. And weirdly, I actually prefer the newer Bentleys, like the proper like football players' cars. So jumping onto those then, the Bentley Continental GT and the Bentley Continental Flying Spur. Continental GT is, it used to be going for like 15k. I think it's like 18 to 20k now, since everything is sort of blown up. I've just accidentally put it's not a peasant car. I would put that one into landed gentry, probably around about here, because it's like an absolute, it's just, when else are you gonna get a twin turbocharged W12 for sub 20k? It's just unbelievable. And yes, I know that there are 1,000,001 problems with it, and that like to live with it might be absolute hell, but it's a cheap exotic car in my books. It's worth going in somewhere up there. I would have the 159 over it because I'm just that much of an Alpha fan. I'm gonna have to move the Quattroporte down, you know. Quattroporte is gonna go down below the Porsches. 159 can stay there, the Gran Turismo can stay there, the Bentley Continental GT can go there, and then the Flying Spur, as an actual luxury car, is clearly leagues above a whole bunch of other cars on this list. Like as an actual luxury car, it is way above most of these cars. I know it's basically the same thing as the Continental GT, but it came with more stuff. I've read the entire owner's manual for this. If you wanted to buy one, you can see all of the different specs. You can see like everything about the car. And for that reason, I know that it is super well equipped for the time when it came out. I'm going to put it into Monarch. So that's my list. Looking back at it, there's probably a few that I could move around here and there. As always, barely any of them have gone down the bottom end because I don't like to say bad things about cars, because I just generally like cars. This was much harder to do than the hot hatchbacks video, as I said. Like, these cars, it's just different. I think it's just like, yeah, as I said, my time in life, I'm not after a luxury car that is anything other than silly and fun. So yeah, maybe ask me again in 10, 15 years time, and maybe these will be, I'll write this completely differently. But for now, I think that's relatively fair. I think the Phaeton was always going to be at #1 for me because I really like the Phaeton. The Flying Spur is effectively the same thing, just not from VW. The LS430 I think is really sick. Yeah, I think it's generally representative of how I feel. But let me know how you feel in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on my list, and also hear what your list would be like as well. Remember to hit the like button if you like this kind of content. I'm happy to do more tier lists. Let me know in the comments down below as well what other tier lists you'd like me to do, if you want me to do any more of these. Massive thank you to the patrons for their support, and to you guys as well for watching. Make sure you're subscribed if you haven't already. But yeah, as always, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.